Hello, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya, for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor and acrylic artist. So I wanted to paint something kind of summery for you since summer's right around the corner, and I thought what better than flip-flops. But I wanted to make them a little bit colorful and whimsical for you, so I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so to get started, I've got my Arches watercolor paper. I have several different sizes of my Grumbacher paintbrushes. I have a pencil and eraser. I have several of my Winsor Newton watercolors. I'll let you know what colors I'm using as I'm going along. And I have my water and my paper towel. All right, so to get started, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lightly sketch out our little flip-flops. And also one more thing I wanted to mention is I am using the rough paper. It's Arches watercolor paper, but it's the rough, so it's not the fine grain. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start sketching out, and you can place your little flip-flops wherever you want. And it's just kind of a really easy little shape. It's just kind of the shape of the sole of a shoe. And I'm gonna make mine a little bit offset here. And you can always go ahead and lighten up your lines or erase some of your lines. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and erase this little line here that I know I don't need. Now, I'm not gonna lighten up my lines because I want you to be able to see these on camera. Okay, grab my little brush here. All right, so the little part that goes between the toes usually is between like the first and second toe. So I'm gonna put a little dot right there and I'm gonna bring it over like this. So that's the little part that holds your toes in. Like that, all right? And then we're gonna do this great big flower coming right off. You could do anything you want. I'm just gonna do a really generic flower. And I'm making this dark enough that you can see it, but you don't have to make yours as dark as mine. All right, and then we can alter anything as we go along. All right, so to get started, I am going to use my size 6 brush, and I'm gonna wet my paper all around the little flip-flop. So I want this to be kind of a sand color, like the flip-flops are in sand. All right, and then I'm gonna take my yellow ochre and I'm gonna get that nice and wet here. And I'm gonna start plopping that in wherever I feel it needs it. Now you don't want to put it everywhere. You want some lights and darks. So put it, here and there. Maybe mostly even like around the shoe so it's a little bit darker, like a shadow around the shoe. And then leave some more of like over like on the edges, maybe a little bit lighter. All right, I didn't get this part of my page wet. So this is just a really easy little summer painting. You can give it away as maybe to a friend, framed for the summer. They might appreciate that. All right, and then I'm gonna just drop in a little bit more because you want this to look grainy. And that's another reason I use the really rough grain paper, because I do want the texture of the sand to be exaggerated. So always think about what paper you're using or should use depending on what you're painting. So since this is sand, I want it to be as grainy as possible. So I used my very grainy paper. All right, let's bring in a little bit of our burnt umber. And put a little bit of that maybe like around the shoe, like there's a shadow. And just let that bleed in nicely together. Okay, maybe even a little bit more, a couple little drops over here and there. Now, if some of your flower is sticking out, you're gonna wanna go around that. Okay, so my paper is nice and dry, so we're gonna go ahead and start doing the flip-flop. And I think I want the bottom of my flip-flop to be pink. So I'm gonna use my Opera Pink, and I'm actually going to get the flip-flop wet first. So this is a wet, so the sand was a wet on wet, and the flip-flop is gonna be a wet on wet. just get that nice and damp. Now you don't want it oversaturated. You don't want any puddles, because then your paint won't disperse evenly on the image. All right, go ahead and get your opera pink wet if that's the color you want. And just start spreading that around. Help it along a little bit. If you want to move to a different size brush, you could definitely do that. Now, if you wanted your strap to be a different color, you would have just left a little bit of white here and there so that you could do your strap a different color. I think I'm going to do mine a darker color, so I don't mind going over the pink. But if you're going to be doing like a lighter color, then yes, you would have wanted to leave some white space right here where these straps are. Just carefully go around your little petals. So I'm using a size 6 still. So again, you can always move down to a different size if you want it to be smaller. Just make sure you've got that pink between those petals there. There. Very pretty. If you wanted to add another color and blend several different colors, you could do that. Let's see, I think I will add a little bit of orange to this. So I've got my cad red, which is kind of an orangey color, and I'm just gonna drop in a few little orange spots just to let it bleed there a little bit and do its thing. There. All right, so before you start your flowers, you do want your flip-flops to be dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry this one more time. Okay, so my sand is dry and my sandals are dry. And I think what I wanna do before I go ahead and start the flower is just deepen up my sand a little bit. So I'm gonna take my size 5, I'm just moving down a little bit. And I'm gonna take that burnt umber again. I just wanna deepen up my shadows. And this is wet on dry. I did not wet my paper first, okay? And before that starts to dry completely, you wanna feather it out. And I wanna leave a little bit of light in there because I do want the contrast. So I'm just kind of going in little circles till it blends out beautifully. Bring it up the other side of the shoe if you want. There, so see how it gives it a little bit more of a shadow? And here too, I'm just gonna blend it out. Just going in little circles. And maybe I'll add a little more up here. And maybe between the shoes here. Okay. There. And if you want, you can always add a little bit here and there. And I'm going to go to my size 6 again for that and just add a little bit of water so it blends out nicely. Just adding water. There. And actually, I think I do want a little more shadow on this side also. So as it dries, you can keep adding a little bit more if you want to. If you see that it's just still a little too light for you, you can always add more. If you want to push this, you can even add a little Payne's gray or black. I think I'm just going to do it just to show you, but if this was a painting that I was selling or displaying, I might not add the Payne's gray, but I just want to show you what happens. So it just deepens it a little bit more. And if you've watched my videos, you know that I like to push my shadows. And just blend that out. And if you feel like you did a little too much or it's a little too dark, or just pick it up with your paper towel before it blends into the paper. And I think I might pick up just a little bit up here. Yeah. Take a little bit away. And then maybe even in here a little bit. Yeah. Good. All right. So now we're gonna get started on our flower, but since I just wet the sand up here, I am gonna just dry this area up here just so we could do the flower without it bleeding into the sand. Okay, so I'm gonna move over to my size 2. I believe this is my size 2, and let's put in a yellow flower. So I'm gonna use my CAD yellow. You can go ahead and get your flower wet first with just water, or you could just add wet on dry, meaning the paper is dry. And I think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna leave my paper dry and just add my yellow to it. So this is, sorry, this was not CAD yellow, this is Winsor yellow. All right, and I'm just gonna add a little bit here and there. I want some of the flower to be white still, so I'm not gonna be adding yellow everywhere. I am gonna leave some of the white of the paper showing, because in watercolor, if you want white, you normally just leave the white of the paper. But I tend to break the rules, and I like using white watercolor as well. So if you think you need to lighten up a little bit of an area, you can always go in and lighten it up a little bit with your white. It will not bring back the whites of the paper, but it will lighten up an area a little bit if you want to. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry, and I think I'm gonna put on, what color straps? Maybe we'll just do the Payne's Gray straps. All right, so I'm going to do that again, wet on dry. And actually, I think I want to use my 000. So I'm using a really tiny little brush here. And I'm just going to go over my straps. You can make them as thick or thin as you want. Try not to touch your yellow of the flower because it will bleed in together. Like that. Look how cute. And do the other side. Oops, I think it bled into some of my yellow flower. Totally fine. Let's see what it does. I might just have to take a paper towel and wipe it up a little bit. There. Add a little more on this side. Super cute. All right, I think I'm gonna do just a little bit of Payne's Gray just around the slipper, just to push it into the sand, just a little bit more. So I'm doing like a very, very thin little line. There. And I think I'll do the same thing to the top of the shoe, right up in here. And maybe just a little more on this side. So as you go along, you'll see what you need. Oh, those are so cute. I'm already starting to think about what I want in the center. I think I want an orange center. Okay, so I am gonna dry my flower so that I can go ahead and add a little, no, you know what? I'm gonna add it even when it's wet, even when the yellow is wet, and just see if it bleeds together. Yep, it does bleed together. Totally fine, I like that look. I don't like when things look too perfect. I like them to bleed together. After all, it is watercolor, and it's supposed to bleed together. Look how pretty that is. That is so cute. All right, now I'm gonna dry it, and then with my archival ink, I'm just gonna outline a little bit of my flower just to define it a little bit more. Okay, so my sandal is pretty dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my archival ink. This is the Micron size 505, and it is just like a pen. And I'm gonna just kind of define my little flower a little bit with a little bit of a broken up line. Not too perfect. See how that just defines it? So this one looks a little bit more defined than this one right now. Right now, this one, since it's not outlined, it is getting lost into the shoe. So I like to use a little bit of ink with my watercolors. If you don't have to do this part. You can always go over with your small liner like we did down here with just watercolor. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a center, like a little spiral. I like my things a little bit more whimsical. So I did just a little spiral there. And I think I am going to add, I've got this Bombay, it's India ink, white, Dr. Martin. And I'm gonna put a couple little drops on that strap. I think I just wanna make this really, really, really whimsical. So I'm gonna take my small little brush here, my 000, and I'm gonna make little dots going right down that little strap. See that? It just adds an extra little detail. I'm all about the details. I like black and white. I like adding black and white to my paintings. I like adding details, polka dots, swirls. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I just like to get a little wild with my colors in my patterns. All right, so I'm gonna do that. And then I also have, it's like a glitter paint. I've used this before in my videos. It's a glitter paint. It's called Tattered Angels. I don't know where I got this from. Someone gave it to me years ago and I just love it. But it does go all the way to the bottom. So you just want to take the bottom of your paintbrush and stir it up really good. Get those sparkles going. All right, because the sparkles do like to settle at the bottom of that little bottle. All right. I am gonna take my, let's do the size 2. I'm take my size 2 and I'm gonna put some glitter right on my flowers. And I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on camera, but it's just adding a little bit of like white little sparkles to that flower, to all the little petals. So pretty. I hope you're able to see this on camera because it's just it's just sparkly. Let me see if I move the paper, maybe you'll be able to see it. See that? And if you want to add some sparkles anywhere else on your painting, you can. I think I'm going to add some sparkles maybe just around the flip-flop a little bit. I love it. I love it, love it. All right, if you want to add shells in here, you totally can add some shells. Maybe I'll just add like some little spirally. If you want to draw it out first, you can. I think I'm just going to do like little spiral shells. Just something very simple here and there. And maybe one more on this side. I will do those also in my burnt umber color here. I'm just going to go around my little pencil marks. This is just adding a little bit more detail. You can blend it out with some water. So I'm just tracing that little pencil mark I did with my 000 paintbrush, and I'm just going over it a little bit with some water, bleeding it out. And you can get really colorful with these if you want to. You can make them, colorful shells or different patterns on them. I'm just gonna do just really simple, just a simple spiral. Maybe add a little bit of water so it's got some lines on there. Another one over here. And I don't want them too defined because they're just supposed to be kind of in the background. The main painting is the flip-flops. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of Payne's Gray just to give it a little bit of shadow. Let that bleed in together. There. Cute. I love it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dry this and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so the way these dried, they're just still a little bit too, I don't know, not as defined as I want. So I'm gonna go over it with my pen, just a broken up shaky line. I don't want too much detail in these shells. I don't want it taking away from my flip-flops, but I am gonna go over that spiral and just redefine it like that. There, super cute. And you can change the colors, you can change the position, you can change shells, whatever you want. Just make this your own, but just have fun with it. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. And you can also make a comment in the comment section. It really helps my channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. Have a great day. Bye.